When I first got my acceptance letter into the NUN program, I was unsure of whether or not I wanted to spend my first semester abroad. It was definitely an intimidating proposition. Until then, I had spent my entire life in Scarborough, Maine, a scenic coastal town just outside Portland, where I lived with my parents, my younger brother, and our 2 dogs. I knew that going to any college in the US and living away from home would be quite an adjustment, so the thought of spending my first 4 months of college in another part of the world was a little scary. But the more I thought about it, the more excited I got, especially when I learned that I could study in Australia, a place I've always wanted to visit. I had been accepted into 6 other colleges, but I knew I wanted to go to Northeastern, and that this would be my chance to see parts of the world I never thought I'd see. My name's Alec Towse, and this is my NUN Australia experience. I graduated salutatorian in a class of 240 from Scarborough High School. After graduation, I spent 6 weeks of summer enjoying my family and friends, and saying goodbye to them all before I left on the biggest adventure of my life. Finally, July 23rd rolled around, and so did the beginning of a long journey from Boston, Massachusetts to Melbourne, Australia. After more than 30 hours of traveling, we arrived in Melbourne, where we faced a sharp transition from the warm American summer to the cloudy, gray Melbourne winter. We spent the first week getting accustomed to our new surroundings at our host university, Swinburne. Our first big adventure was to the Healesville Animal Sanctuary, where we got to see all kinds of Australian wildlife, including kangaroos, koalas, and a wide variety of Australian birds. We also got a chance to see the beautiful Yarra Valley along the way. After orientation week, classes set in, and I got into the routine of going to class, working on homework, doing laundry, cooking for myself, and keeping the apartment somewhat clean. There was still time for other activities, though. I joined the Swinburne Stage Band, and as the only American in the group, it gave me an opportunity to hang out with some Aussie students and play jazz, something I've been doing since I was in the 5th grade. After rehearsals, I usually headed over to my favorite place, Dizzy's, for some local jazz. NUN also offered several group excursions during our time in Australia, including a day trip to Phillip Island, where we got to see penguins and pelicans and the island's breathtaking beaches. Another awesome sight we witnessed was the Great Ocean Road and the magnificent 12 Apostles. During the excursion, we swam in the Lockhart Gorge, which was freezing, but definitely a unique experience. Our final excursion was to the beautiful city of Sydney, where I had the opportunity to witness some spectacular views from the top of the Sydney Harbour Bridge pylon and the Sydney Tower Eye. I also visited Sydney's Taronga Zoo, where I saw some magnificent wildlife. And of course I took a tour of the Sydney Opera House as well. But in spite of all the amazing things I had experienced, and my newfound independence on the other side of the world, I definitely missed my family. So I was thrilled when my dad came to visit me for spring break. After spending a couple days showing him around Melbourne, we hopped on a plane and headed to Queenstown, New Zealand, where we skied at the 3 largest mountains in the area, Ardrona, the Remarkables, and Treble Cone. I had an absolute blast. It was so great to share that experience with my dad. Why can't she give some sort of sign? In addition to all the traveling I did during my semester abroad, I had the opportunity to give back to the local community through NUN's service learning. I worked at the Parkinson's Walk Victoria and an Australian Red Cross shop. At the Parkinson's Walk, I worked as a course marshal, where I had the opportunity to meet and encourage participants in the walk. It was very inspiring to see all of those suffering from Parkinson's and those affected by loved ones with Parkinson's participating in the walk. At the Australian Red Cross shop, I worked as a retail volunteer, and it felt good knowing that the work I did went to helping the Red Cross fund all of its important efforts. Through my experience in the NUN program, I got the opportunity to visit amazing places I never thought I'd go. But I didn't just visit Melbourne, I lived there. I experienced the day-to-day life of the city firsthand, and learned more about Melbourne and Australia than I ever thought I would. Additionally, I became more independent, and learned a great deal myself during this unique experience. I also got to share it with some fun and interesting people along the way. When I go back to Boston, I hope to take all that I've learned over the course of the last 4 months and apply it there. I also look forward to the rest of my college career at Northeastern's Boston campus. But I will never forget the good times I had in Australia and all that I learned there. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Back in 2011, I decided
about it.